Yo, what's up? It's your brother. And hopefully your friend Big Hill. Rockwacey in the building. Black African power. Each one teach one. Hey, right now, I'm going to share with you something. A chapter from a book. This book that I have on the screen. This book by Black Dot is called Urban Culture Decoded, a Critical Analysis into the Physical, Mental, and Spiritual State of a New Generation by Black Dot. And Black Dot is a brother in the conscious community, man. He used to be a hip hop artist. And he has a podcast on YouTube with his son called Urban X, if you want to check him out. And he has a lot of other videos about hip hop, the metaphysics of hip hop, a lot of stuff about Illuminati, why rappers sell their soul. Just Google him or go on YouTube and look up Black Dot, and then you'll see what he's all about. But this book right here, man, this book is, I just finished reading this book. And this book is one of the most well-written, informative, critical analysis of urban America. I mean, it's like a lot of the stuff, man, that I read in here, I kind of think along those same lines. But him having the ability to put it down in a book really, man, explains it in detail what's going on in our communities. I mean, it's real insightful, excellent, well written. I really don't understand why some of these large YouTube or platforms haven't really heard, because I haven't really heard a lot about this book. And I think this book, man, should be read, especially by the older generation. Those of us in our 40s and 50s. Matter of fact, this in particular chapter 40, is called To the Elders. And the chapters aren't real long. That's why it's got 40 chapters. Most of the chapters are 2 or 3 pages long. But what he's packed in those 2 or 3 pages, man, is an excellent critical analysis of the subtitle of the chapter. I think it's an excellent read. And when I read this chapter, man, I think it was yesterday, I was having a conversation with some young brothers, man. And when the conversation is over, I was reflecting on what we was talking about, and I could clearly see the disconnect between my generation and their generation. These brothers had to have been about like 20, 21, something like that. Millennials, I guess you can call them. And man, there's a really disconnect. And to me, when I look at society, I think the disconnect, the gulf between us is widening. And I understand what's going on, I blame it all on the crack craze of the 1980s when the CIA put that crack in our communities, man. It destroyed my generation and it destroyed the next 2 generations. And what we see now is a direct result of what happened in the 80s when they put that crack. Because if you look at before crack, the black community was a whole lot different than it is now. They destroyed us with it. This was biochemical warfare that they waged against us. Just like they put the heroin in the black communities in the 60s, well, a generation later, they did us in the 80s with the crack. If those that didn't get strung out on it got killed over it because they started shipping in a lot of guns, automatic weapons in the community. And those that didn't get killed over it spent large amounts of time in jail for it. Because they came out with their sentencing guidelines. So the government was implicit, the CIA, the legislature, because they started passing laws. The corporate structure, corporations started building prisons. The prison industrial complex became one of the most profitable businesses in America. And we, black men and women, but mostly black men, were the main ones these jails and prisons were being filled with. So, that's strategic warfare to wipe out a generation. But anyway, so when I read this chapter here, man, this chapter, Message to the Elders, it gives a very good analysis of what happened to our youth and how we need to really look at our youth instead of condemning them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read this chapter. Forgive me, I'm not really a real good reader. So I'm gonna read this, and man, I'm gonna try not to embellish it. I'm gonna try just to go straight through, but it's hard for me to read something and not make a commentary on it. So I'm gonna read this, man, and y'all just pay attention, man, and tell me, in the comments whether or not you agree with this brother. I think he hit the nail on the head with this, and I think that this book needs to be illuminated in our community. Everybody needs to read this book. Anyway, chapter 40, message to the elders. Forgive our youth for not having the knowledge of true history since it's not being taught to them in the public school system. And we haven't provided an alternative method of educating them. Haven't built any schools to teach them what we know they should learn. That's just my commentary, but anyway. It says, forgive them for not having the utmost respect for women since all the older men that they look up to, rappers, athletes, and actors, all have multiple women. Call them out of their names and prefer strippers instead. Please forgive them for being so violent since there are no job or positive outlets but plenty of drugs and guns made ready available for them to indulge in. Please forgive them for not respecting their elders since most of their elders have disowned them, pointed fingers at them, or blamed them for everything that is wrong with society. Please forgive our youth for looking up to rappers and hustlers. Yet these are the only ones who respect them by telling them their story in a manner in which they can truly relate. Forgive our youth for dating white women when all of their prominent role models for over the last 50 years have married white women once they reached a certain level of success. Forgive our youth for being gay since no one taught them their true culture and they have adopted the culture of their oppressor. Forgive our youth for acting like savages when they were left to fend for themselves, with no mothers or fathers to guide them, a police system that is out to arrest or kill them, a court system that is not in their favor, a prison system that capitalizes off their slave labor, and a workforce that will not hire them. Forgive our youth for feeling abandoned by their own elders who let all of this happen on their watch. This younger generation is a byproduct of integration, the crack era, and popular culture. This mixture, along with social media, has created a generation that is almost unrecognizable to our elders. However, at their core, they are still we. While most of what our elders endured was physical and mental, our youth have endured a physical beatdown like none that we have witnessed before. As a result, they have morphed into the most dangerous, violent, sexually active, drug-using, rebellious generation of all time. Integration forced them to lose the little bit of identity that they had left. At least during segregation, we demonstrated a sense of self-pride, an entrepreneurial spirit, and a cultural identity. In a society that is predominantly European, it is hard to hold on to your cultural values when you are being forced to mix with others. The crack era opened the floodgates for murder, money, and mayhem. Those who wouldn't normally have the heart to commit murder were doing so at an alarming rate. The stakes were too high. Women who wouldn't normally perform sex acts were doing so frequently. The notion of being nude in public became secondary to getting a hit of crack. This led to the whole stripper culture being so readily accepted in the years to come. The hood had never seen so much money and opportunity before. Even those who had foresight and vision capitalized off the crack era by starting legit businesses off the proceeds. The children who were birthed during this time period were of the unified field of thought of that time period. The thought process of that time period was, I will do anything for this money. I will even shoot up my own neighborhood for this money. I will even kill my own brother for this money. I will sell to children, pregnant women, and elders. This mindset altered the very DNA of the generation that we see today. This also led to the increased hostility between police and our urban community because these crack dealers were even willing to shoot it out with law enforcement for that money. No one saw this epidemic coming except Ronald Reagan and the CIA, headed up by George W. Bush, who allowed it to happen on their watch as part of the Iran-Contra affairs. So I cannot put all of the blame on our elders for such a shift in consciousness. Just think back 5 years BC, before crack, at the state of our people, and tell me that what we see today is not a direct result of crack cocaine. I said that, didn't I? I call it crack because it cracked the code of our DNA like no other drug before it. All other drugs before it, like heroin, marijuana, and PCP, etc., all allowed us to maintain the essence of who we were. Crack created an entire new species altogether, the soulless generation. We always claim that this generation is so quick to sell their souls for fame and fortune, when the truth of the matter is that they never had a soul to begin with. They are hardwired to pursue fame and fortune. In fact, they look at you strange if you do not do the same. When hip hop was replaced with rap, this led our entry into the pop culture. Pop culture has become one world culture where every culture is meshed into one. Rappers are known by politicians, politicians are known by athletes, athletes are known by actors, and actors are known by ballers. Ballers are known by Wall Street investors, and Wall Street investors are known by strippers. Strippers are known by rappers. This world culture has stripped our youth of any and everything connected to their ancestral bloodline. They are now of the get money culture, the gay culture, the transplant culture, the stripper culture, the killer culture, and more. Our elders have to take a different approach to reach and save our youth. They can no longer hold them to the same standards as they previously held for themselves. They have to come off their high horse and walk amongst the people once again. They have to take all that they have learned and integrate it into what is going on today. They have to almost work in reverse, build a stairway not from the top down, as if from a higher plane of existence to that of a lower realm, but from the bottom up, as if they are building a stairway to heaven for all that wish to climb it. They have to rewrite this code. They have to rewrite the code of this particular matrix. The old paradigm, which they know and love, may be gone forever. Those elders who choose to live in a bubble of our ancestors' past and do the things the old way may not make it. We are the vanguards of a new culture in which history is yet to be written. Those of us who are not yet elders, but too old to be considered youth, have to bridge the gap between the youth and our elders. We have to transcribe the ancient text into the text messages if need be. We have to codify the old teachings into the current matrix of language used by our youth. We have to use the science of art for what it was truly meant for, which is to uplift our humanity through sound, visuals, dance, storytelling, and spirit. We are the ones who have been waiting for. It says we are the ones who we have been waiting for. Once our elders recognize the true potential of our youth, they will be more than willing to assist them in ushering in a new paradigm because the future of our people are depending on it. So there, man, that chapter right there pretty much, man, laid it out about what happened to our youth, what influenced them, how they think, and what we need to do. Like me, being in my 50s, I really don't consider myself an elder because to me, elders are like 65 and above, 60, 70, 80 years old. Those are elders. But I'm too young. I'm too old to be young. I'm a middle-aged man. I guess that's why they call it middle age. I'm in the middle. You got young, you got old, and you got middle age. So it's my job now as an older man, a middle-aged man, to try to build, to pay attention to the youth, like Black Dot was saying. Catch the ear of the youth, talk to the youth, understand the paradigm, and realize that the way that I was raised up with the values I have are still good values, but I can't use that as a template to try to guide and relate to the youth because that's not for them. Like he explained, man, they a whole new creature. what they had to deal with and came up with is a whole new DNA. So it's like they're a whole new creature. You know, they us, they are still us, but they operating on a whole new paradigm. They just don't see the world like I see it. They don't see the world like the people who came before me see it. So it's my job to pay attention to them and make sure that I can explain who they are to the ones that's above me and older than me, so we can bridge the gap. You know what I'm saying? Because we still need the elders, we still need the youth, and we still need my generation. We all have to work together to try to overcome this oppression and make our communities and places we live better. And that's the whole point, man. We still have to live with each other. We still have to try to strive to make where we live with each other better places, decent places to live for the babies that's coming up. So, man, I encourage y'all, man, to get this book, Urban Culture Decoded. Read it, study it, buy it for somebody, pass it on, share the information. Big Hill, each one teach one. I'm out. Peace.